Hello. See, we have,
すごい、
I think we have 4 people watching right now.
すごい。
Graveyard Ball, welcome. Welcome to YakyuDB's very first live stream. My name is Gen, and I will be your host. Today's stream is scheduled to run until 10:30 a.m. Japan time. If you're watching this from the archives and are wishing you didn't miss it, don't worry, you'll have other opportunities to watch. Allow me to introduce today's special guest, sitting right next to me. His name is Kazuma Taniguchi. He is currently chief editor at Baseball Times. Kazuma was born in Tokyo and is about the same age as Yu Darvish. He played high school ball for 3 years, and his primary position was pitcher. He worked at a batting center when he was a student and plays sandlot baseball in his free time. He considers himself a Yakyu Baka. If you have any questions about Yakyu for either me or Kazuma, please post them in the comment section. There is one caveat. Kazuma does not speak English, or, well, actually, I don't know what his level is, but I don't think his level is very high. So I'll be interpreting for him as the questions come along. Now, if there are no questions, I do have a series of questions I can ask him about Yakyu. But ideally, we'll get people asking questions, and it could really be anything about, it could be about professional baseball, high school baseball. He has 3 years experience playing high school baseball, so he does have that background.
大学も来たければ。
He also does have knowledge about college baseball as well. So if there's something in there that you're interested about, maybe like the training routines or the programs, he might be able to answer those questions. And of course, there's always the questions about throwing, number of pitches. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to give you his thoughts on that as well. But looking at the chat right now, don't see.
Ah, そこがチャットなんですね。
Okay, so we have the first question here. What is the earliest year you think Shohei Otani comes to MLB from Graveyard Baseball?
いつ大谷が来るか。
はい、そうですね。いつ頃来ますか？アメリカに。
あと2年は日本でやるんじゃないですかね。
それは自分の希望か、実はその方向性が強い。
その方向性が強いだと思います。はっきりしたものはまだないですけど、多分選手として成熟させてから行かせたいと思ってるはずで、皆さん思ってるよりまだ成長過程だと思うので、もうちょっと残して、あとはホークスを倒すっていう任務がきっとあるはずなんで。
Okay, so Kazuma believes that it'll be at least 2 more years. He thinks that because Otani still has a lot more to develop, and he still has a job to do here in Japan, which is to take down the SoftBank Hawks. So he thinks 2 more years. どっか噂じゃないですけど、そのオリンピックのために、大谷を逆にオリンピックまでに日本に置いて、出られるような、アメリカ行っちゃうともうみんな出られない。
あ、そんな噂があるんですか？
いや、なんかそのどっかで私が読んだんですけど、そういうのは
それはないと思いますけど。
ないですかね。Well, right now I just asked him. I read some rumors about maybe you can have the fighters applying some pressure on Otani to stay in Japan until the Olympics, so that he can participate in the Olympics for the Japanese team. But he says that's probably not going to happen. And I think he believes that 2 years right now is about the right timing for maybe the fighters to post him. No sooner than that, most likely.
やっぱ大谷のことは皆さん気になってるんですかね。
そうですね。やっぱり今多分一番 NPB で大きな名前というと大谷だと思うんですよ。来ました。What has your impression of Luis Okoye so far? Will he continue to see regular playing time in each game if he continues to struggle with the bat? Hello, Daniel Brim. Thank you for your question.
はい。
今どういう印象いいかどうか、悪いのか今ちょっとやっぱりいい時もあったり悪い時もある、それの中でまだこう一軍でやっていけるかどうか、もしくはまた二軍に落とされるかどうかっていう、どう思いますか？
オコエはラッキーなことが一つあって、チーム状況がチーム状況なので出してもらえる環境があるし、守備、やっぱ守れるんで使われるだけの価値があるんですよ。
それってオコエにプラスなんですか？マイナス？
プラスだと思います、僕は。
野村がこの前なんか二軍で振ってけって、それはどう思いますか？その守備とか走るのとかはすごくもちろんいいんですけども、でも打つ方がこれでちょっと遅れちゃうんじゃないかとか、それは心配ないんですか？
そうですね。そう考えると僕も下でまだ2軍でできることはあるタイプの選手だと思います。よく成長過程にある選手ってもう2軍でやることはないから2軍ではもう3割打てるからもう上でしかやることないけど上行くと2割とかしか打てないっていう選手はもう2軍でやることないから使うしかないっていうことです。だけどオコエの場合はまだ2軍でもやることはあるのは事実なんです。だけど多分彼目立つ選手だから観客の中で一番力を出す選手だからっていう意味だと今どんどん成長はしてるけどまだ下でできることあるし、落ちる可能性も全然ある。ただ将来有望な選手であるのは間違いない。
Okay, he basically said that right now Okoye, he's in a good situation. The Eagles are kind of hurting right now in terms of players, and they have room for him at Ichiro. When those players come back, it's possible he can be dropped, but he might be dropped back down to Ichiro. But for now, there's no reason to really force him to stay at Ichiro. And the thing is, if he has the opportunity, why not give it to him? Now, there are other people, for example, Nomura Katsuya, former Eagles manager, he was basically talking about how Okoye should really be sent down to Nigun and just spend time swinging the bat. Kazuma also believes that there are things, certainly things he can learn at Nigun. And there are things that he can learn that will help him develop as a player. But as it stands right now, I think he believes it's fine for him to be up at Ichiro. He's kind of a showy, flashy player, and he's not really the kind to sort of, I guess, get down if he has a bad game or two. He seems very energetic. I think for now, you'll probably see him at Ichiro, and until the situation changes and there's, the Eagles have a little more in terms of options, he'll probably remain at Ichiro. So thanks for your question, Daniel, and we sell it. And we sell a tasty life. It's Yamada Tetsu. I don't know if LeBron James should.
何て質問ですか？
いや、これ日本語で、山田哲人、レブロン・ジェームズより。
本当だ。才能があるかと。
才能があるか。
山田哲人がってことですか？
まあわかんないのか。これ
はい
遊びでやってるのか、本当にそれで聞いてるのかどうか。
フィールドが違うからね。
まあでもまあ山田哲人のことを知りたいんですか。
山田哲人は
どんな選手、そんな選手っていうか、今 NPB の中で打つ選手として、どのぐらいのレベルなんですか。ランクとして例えば10位に入るとか。
いや、もう今の現状、日本で言ったらトップ10に行く5本指に入るんですか。どの評論家に聞いてもすごいって言われる選手。
で、それはもう全面的に、例えばそのどこも欠けてないっていう意味。
と思いますよ、バッティングに関しては。
で、
ただ、
守備とかは
守備も良くなってはいます。けど、じゃあ、ワールドクラスかって言われたら、残念ながら彼には体の大きさっていう才能がない。っていうのが、ちょっと先入観かもしれないですけどね。だから代表で4番を打つかって言ったら打たないし、国際大会で大きいホームランを打つかって言ったら、僕らも楽しみだし、不安な部分。日本の一員として。
Okay, I'm not really sure. We sell a tasty life. I'm not sure really what your question was, but I asked him what his thoughts were on Yamada Tetsudo, and he believes, Yamada, and a lot of, I guess, people in the media also believe that he's probably within the top 5 in terms of hitting in the MPB right now. If anything, he has some problem on defense, and most of it has to do with his size. And he also said that if he were ever, he would probably never. He's the kind of player that would probably never really get the chance to bat cleanup for the national team because of his size and because I think obviously you do have other players like Tsugo and Nakata, so. So I think those players will probably get.
音が入ってますか？
いや、これが入ったり消えたり。I think I don't know if the stream's going on and off or not. The indicator lamp over here seems to be flicking on and off. So if
見る限り大丈夫そうで
the
す。
stream is okay, well, it looks like it's okay. But so yeah, Yamada is probably not really geared in terms of if you compare him to other kinds of players currently in the NPB. There are probably other options in terms of cleanup hitters for the national team. But again, like I said, he thinks that Yamada is easily within top 5 for in terms of hitting in the MPB right now. So thank you very much. We sell a tasty life. And let's see, Tensai Baka. What are your thoughts about NPB's expansion and Abe's proposal last year to add 4 teams? Do you think MPB could add 2 following MLB's model of odd teams per league? Interesting question. Okay. 去年、安倍総理大臣が、
NPB を増やす
っていう話が出てました。それはどう思いますか？本当に増やせるのかというか。この方は2チーム入れるでもいいんじゃないっていう。で、あと
奇数でもいいんじゃないかって話ですよね。
MLB のような感じで、そういうのやっていけるかどうかっていう。
日本人はなんていうんですか、こういうところもなんか変にきっちりしてるんですよ。だから7チームでリーグをやるってことはおそらくないと思います。1番余っちゃうじゃんっていう発想になりがち。で、増えるかどうかは、やるとしても、本当数年後、結構先を見た話だと思います。で、結構簡単にいかない事情がたくさんあって、球場の問題とか、もちろん選手の問題もあるし、で現状、独立リーグっていうのも存在しているしということを考えると、あんまり可能性の高い話ではないけども、政治主導だから、
わからない。
あり得るけど、今、野球界にいる人間としては、そのことを誰も 気にはしてないし、本気にもしてない。
その話っていうのでも、例えば、いいと思うんですか悪いと思うんですかもしなった場合。
僕は12球団で育ってきちゃったから、これが増えるイメージも正直わかんないし、
でも今、例えばそのファンの人数とかを全国見て、野球のファンの人数とか見て、それ実際にサポートできるかどうかとか、それもちょっと最近ちょっとこう、まあ結構その、観客が結構数字が増えてきてるみたいだけども、実際その、例えばその、どっか、新潟とかで球団作ったら、本当にそこで客が来るのかどうか。
そういう意味だと、あんまり来ないんじゃないかっていう気持ちの方が僕は多いかな。
Okay, Tensai Baka, he says that he doesn't think odd teams per league is ever going to happen. He says it's a Japanese thing. Odd numbers, it means someone's left out. So it's not something Japanese people like to do. So if anything, it would probably be 8 teams. It would probably be an even number. If anything, I mean, he doesn't think it'll happen, but it's the government's saying it, so you never know. It might be pushed through, but if anything, it's probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon, like immediately. If anything, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the road, but not anything right away. And あとは2つのリーグを1つにするとかっていう話も。それはあれ
多分ないです。
I also asked him if there was, what his thoughts were about maybe, 2 leagues coming into 1 league. There have been rumors about that as well, but he doesn't think that'll happen. So thank you for your question, Tensai Baka. And moving right along, Ian, I guess I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly or not, but Ian Razor. Do you think Ichiro will return to the MPB in 2017 or 2018?
ないでしょ
う。まあそもそも戻ってくるかっていう話ですよね。ありえる、ありえない。
僕はありえないと思ってます。
例えばじゃあ監督としてとかっていうのも。
監督としてとかは、
コーチとか。コーチはあるか。
いや、それだったらでもそっちで、
多分ね、
あっちでやると思います。
監督じゃないと帰ってこない。
日本人ファンとして、日本人の野球人として、日本で見たい気持ちはあるけども、多分こっちに収まる人じゃないし、で、イチローさんの古巣が今、またね、厳しい状況にもあるし、こっちがイチローさんを受け入れる体制ができてないんじゃないかなって気がしますよ。
まあ、だからじゃあ、監督として戻る場合、オリックスしかないんですか？
考えられないと思います。
チーム無理って、そのイメージがないから無理。もしくはお金がないから無理とか。
いや、どちらでもないですね。なんていうのかな。イチローさん、僕が想像しても、イチローさんが収まるいい場所がない。日本にあります。
監督としても。
球団の、どっかの球団の人になるっていうイメージがない。それだったら、例えば代表チームとか、みたいな、ブランドになってると思うんですよ。
Okay, Ian, I just asked him, and he does not think Ichiro will come back to Japan. Certainly not as a player. I asked him if he thought maybe he might come back as a coach or manager. Probably not as a coach, and most likely not as an MPB manager. He just thinks he's just, Ichiro is just too big for the MPB now, and that his brand is just, he just wouldn't fit into the MPB. And if anything, maybe he could be like a Samurai Japan manager. I think maybe that might be more fitting for him. I don't know. I kind of get that feeling too. I think he's just he's gotten too big, and I don't know if he would ever want. I mean, if he's gonna, I guess it would be if he can play here, then he may as well play in the United States, I guess. Yeah, so we'll have to see how that. I mean, I think he's saying he wants to play until he's 50, so there's still quite a ways to go if he actually does play until he's 50, and then if he comes back to Japan at that point, you know, maybe things will be different. I don't know, but at this point right now, it's just I think he really is just too big of a name, and I don't think there's really any team over here that could actually welcome him with open arms that easily. So thank you, Ian. And E1K1, hello, from Brazil. Interesting.
ね、ブラジルから。
Yes, from Brazil.
すごい。地球の反対から。ありがとう。
Thank you. Jose Rafael Jerez, is that correct? I'm not sure. Hello, is there any news about 2017 WBC rounds in Tokyo? Specifically, which teams will be in Japan's first round group?
うん。あれですよね。まだね、日本でも報道出てないんですよ。
決まってない。
決まってないですよ。おそらく日本でやるとは思いますよ。第1ラウンド。はい。
この前の WBC って
最初は日本でやりました。日本が所属しているこのグループが。
ああ、そうですよね。で、なんか同時でやってたんですよ。
あ、そうですね、多分。
どこだっけ？
はいはい。
で、日本だったんですよね。
そうです。
確か。で、日本が最初に第一ゲームだったんですよね、確か。
あ、そうですね。開幕ゲームそうだったんじゃないですか。でも、まだ本当に僕たちのところにもどこでやるか情報書いてなくて、もし母国の試合を日本でやるのが見ようと思ってるんだったら、来るときは面白いとこ教えますよって。
There hasn't really been any mention of the WBC yet in the media. He's, you know, as I said, he works. He's the chief editor at Baseball Times, so you know, he does have a direct connection to the media, or he is the media. And he hasn't heard anything. There hasn't been any news about that yet. I don't think it's been decided, but he does believe that you know the first round will probably be played in Japan again, just like it was 4 years ago. I think it started in Japan, and I think it was also. I think there were also games played in Taiwan. I can't remember, but I think they were doing it in 2 locations at the same time. So. Chances are it'll probably be the same thing again in 2017. So, thank you, Jose. And Tensei Baka, interesting insight, thanks. Just for reference, next time you might want to tweet out. I actually did tweet it out, although I think I may have just tweeted it out to, I have 2 Twitter accounts right now. I think I may have just tweeted out to the one Twitter account that I have and not the other. I apologize. I will be sure to, and the thing is, this live stream was kind of a last-minute development. It was in the works, but I wasn't really sure about the date, and so it kind of came together at the last minute. And the next time, I'll be sure to schedule it a little better, and I'll be sure to tweet it and post it. At least a few days in advance. So yeah, thank you for tweeting it to your Reddit followers. I appreciate that. Roller Coaster Freak. Who are some of the top prospects, Industrial League, University, High School, who could be drafted in October? Spell them out too, if possible. なんかこうドラフトでかかりそうな、社会人野球とか、今年の選手だと
今年は高校だと松坂の後輩になるんですけど、横浜高校の藤平かながめちゃくちゃ有名です。松 松坂より身長もありますし、
横浜です。
はい。
Yokohama's Fujihira is one. There's actually, let me give you a link. I've been compiling a list of prospects, and send that link. I don't think I've really published it at YakyuDB, but let me post it here. If you go to this link, you'll probably see his name, Fujihira. He's Yokohama High School pitcher, and he's, according to Kazuma, he's actually a very highly touted prospect. 何がいいんですか？その
体も大きいし、球も速くて、で何より横浜高校は皆さんさすがにご存知ないかな。
いや、知ってる人は多分知ってると思います。
日本でもトップクラスの高校なんですよ。特にピッチャーはいい。
じゃあグラウンドっていう。
グラウンドでも本当。
Okay. He's he's a big player, and he can throws at decent velocity. And one of the biggest reasons why he might be a top draft pick is the fact that he's a Yokohama player. Yokohama is kind of like is a brand in some ways. So, and of course, Matsuzaka was also from Yokohama. There's been a lot of players from Yokohama, actually, Yokohama High School. So they have a very good track record, and that's also part of the reason why he's highly rated. But あとは誰か
高校じゃなくてもいいですか？今一番下がれてるのは田中正義。もう彼は間違いなく入るでしょうけど、ありがちなんですが、大学で投げすぎて1回故障してるんで、それがどうなるかですね。
There's also, in terms of university players, Asia
アジアでしたっけ？僕も忘れちゃった。あ、創価大か。
あ、創価大です。In terms of university prospects, there's Soka University's Seigi Tanaka. Although he's been hurt, so well, he overthrew and hurt himself. So I don't know. I think there are still a lot of teams interested in, but I think there are some concerns about his health. It'll be interesting to see how many teams try to draft him. I think. But he's a name that's been dropped a lot in the press, so I think I guess those two pitchers are probably the most or the biggest at this point right now. あとは誰か
今年はやっぱり日本のドラフト候補って夏の大会が終わったらっていう感じで、僕たちもそれを楽しみにしてる部分もあるんですよ。
In terms of like other prospects, I think a lot of the names come out after the Summer Koshien. So, if you want a better list, we'll probably be able to put together something. I'll probably be able to put something together after the Summer Koshien. And of course, I'll be continuing to update that list that I provided a link for at YakyuDB. And I actually do have one for hitters as well, for position players. And I'll be keeping this updated too, so you can keep an eye on that. And that should give you a fair idea of players that are kind of big in the media. Okay, it seems like the stream is. Sorry, the stream's sort of hiccuping right now. So yeah, keep an eye on that list, and you should have a decent idea of some of the top prospects for the draft. Let's see. So thank you, Roller Coaster Freak. And E1K1, do you know if any players from Brazil that are playing in Japan could be drafted this year?
そういうことです。
難しいですね。ブラジルの選手で今年のドラフトでかかる選手がいますか？
僕が聞いてる中では正直候補としてはいいんだけど、僕よりもスカウトの人たちはたくさんの人を見てるから可能性はなくはないし、最近増えてるんで、選ばれていただいて、ぜひ応援しに日本に来る機会があればいい。
E1K1, he doesn't know of any players, Brazilian players in Japan that might be drafted, but he's not a scout, so he isn't positive. But it's always a possibility, though. He did say that there was a larger number of Brazilians playing in Japan now, so it wouldn't be odd for a player to be drafted, a Brazilian player to be drafted. But for right now, yeah, I don't think there's any like big name or anything out there. So thank you, E1K1. And Ian, is there more a sense of pride or dread every time a Japanese player goes to MLB? これはだから日本からアメリカに行くとき、日本人としてプライドか罪悪感じゃないけど、
どっちが強いのかってことですか？
そうですね。
日本人選手が、それとも我々が
日本人選手が
行くときに、
今回、前田が行ったときに、また行っちゃったとか、行ってよかったとか、行ってよかったというか、その選手のためのハッピー。そのリーグとしては多分すごい痛いかもしれないけども、選手としてはすごい喜ばしいことです。ただ、どっちの方が強いっていう。
僕は誇らしいですけど、選手によっては。
じゃあ、
なんていうんですかね。ついに行くんだなって思う選手もいるし、いる一方で、やっぱり選手によってなんですよ。行ってこい、マイケン。お前ずっと行きたかったんだろって思うピッチャーもいれば、俺はちょっとメジャー行きたいんだって言って、評価されなくて、3A だって言われたら、行かない選手。っていうのは、ってなると、そもそも手を挙げるなら行きたくないだろって思う。だからそういう選手は逆に私はですよ。NPB に残ってもなんか夢のない選手だと思います。
This is his personal opinion. He feels, well, he says it depends on the player. If the player has been dreaming about playing the majors for a long time, and if they've been working really hard and that they're willing to take whatever position is available in the majors, I think those kind of players, he's happy for them, he feels pride. But if it's a player that complains about getting dumped to AAA or says they no longer want to play because they can't play in the majors because they have to play in the minors, then he believes those players just may as well stay in Japan because they just don't really want it that much. And those kind of players, he's just like, well, they shouldn't be bothered. But yeah, but it seems to me like for the most part, he does feel pride, he does feel happiness for the player when they go to the majors. リーグの方、例えば野球全体を見てっていう意味では、例えばその NPB の将来っていうかいい選手がもうどんどんいっちゃうと、もちろんその 日本のレベルのクオリティが下がってくる。
それはあまり気にしないです。例えばなんですけど、じゃあマイケン行っちゃって、広島が弱くなったかって言ったら、今年の結果見ていただいたら分かる通りで、結局誰かがいなくなると誰かが出てくるっていうのはメジャーも一緒だと思うんですけど、それを言ってるし、で、誰しもがメジャーを目指してるわけでもないので、っていう意味では全然大丈夫。
I also asked him as a follow-up, if he was worried about the quality of play dropping, and this is, I think, something that a lot of people mention when talking about players going to the Japanese players going to the majors. And he doesn't believe the quality really suffers because there's always someone else to come in to pick up the slack. Like for example, his example was Maeda with Hiroshima Carp. They lost Maeda, but then Chris Johnson stepped up. They have a bunch of young pitchers; they're stepping up, and the Carp are actually doing pretty well this year. So they really haven't. The loss of Maeda hasn't been as big as it might have been, but that's because someone was able to step up, and so he's not too worried about the quality going down. Because I do think there's also a large influx of players always coming into the MLB. So there's always going to be someone to fill the openings that are left when players leave the majors. Thank you again, Ian. And E1K1, is there a player that could go to the MLB next year?
来年誰が行くかってことですよね。
いますか？
手を挙げる選手は誰かはいると思うんですけど、行く時期の選手いるかな。またややこしいんですけど、WBC やると行きにくいっていう問題があるんですよ。より近がそうだったかな。
確かに。
MLB 席が決まってジャパンに行かなくなったりされたし、今のところ情報として誰かが手を挙げるっていうのは今のところない。
Right now, he hasn't heard of any players wanting to go to the majors next year, and he also points to the WBC as being a reason. I think it's a lot harder to say you want to go to the majors when you have the WBC coming up, and if you're going to be playing for the national team or not. So I think in terms of next year, probably no one.
逆に見たい人いるのかな。見たい選手、大谷以外で。
E1K1 or anyone else for that matter. Is there actually a player in Japan other than Otani that you would like to see go to the majors? So we'll wait for that answer and move on to the next question. Ian, how well received are former MLBers returning like Kunoda, Jojima, Taguchi, Matsuri? 元メジャーの選手が戻ってきたときに、日本なんていうんですかね、結構、よく思われてるっていうか阪神もそうだけども、城島が来て助けてくれるっていう形で一応サインしたわけだし、黒田も結構前のつながりがあって、男前っていうか、そういうのがそれが売りで、結構ポジティブな影響というか、でも一般的に元選手が入ってくるときに、そういう空気っていうのがいいか悪いかっていう空気っていうの印象がいいか悪いか。
もうすごくいいと思いますよ。今名前挙げていただいた以外だと、田中健介ってファイターズのベテランがあまり MLB では活躍できなかったんですけど、帰ってきてもう普通にプレーしてるし、チームメイトのみんなが歓迎してたっていう話は僕も聞いてるので、そういう意味では全然批判的なコメントはないんですが、
でも例えば阪神は結構城島とかそういう選手をいっぱい集めて、で最終的に 1,2 年ぐらい良かったけども、その後も怪我とかでダメになっちゃったっていう、で株主がも もう若い選手で行こうっていう。
まあ、チームにどうしてもよりきりですよね。あと、だから説得力があるかどうかの問題で、城島さんとか黒田さんが戻ってくるってなったら、日本人も見たいんですよ。だけど、じゃあセカンドいないチームに剛西岡が戻ってきたところで、それで穴埋まるのかっていう問題と、あとはさらに問題があって、MLB で結果残せなかった、要は2年ちゃんとシーズンを送ってない選手が、2、3年送ってない選手が、若手より全然高い給料で戻ってきて、レギュラー与えられるのは違うだろうっていう、結構建設的な批判なんで、それは多分、内容を詳しく調べると、それは批判されるような。
Okay, so former MLBers that returned to Japan, like Kuroda, Jojimata, for the most part, I think they are well received. I think, especially players like Jojima and Kuroda, they have a name. They were established players over here, and so there is actually an audience. There are people, the fans, that want to see them play in the NPB again, and for those kind of players, they also did have good years in the MLB too, particularly Kuroda. I think when players like that come back, I think they are well received, and or at least players that tried. There's also Kensuke Tanaka with the Nippon Hand Fighters. He went to the MLB and then came back, and according to Kazuma, he was very, very well received. His teammates were happy when he came back, and so I think it depends on the player and the kind of things they did when they were in the United States, whether or not they were hurt, whether or not they were doing what they were told to do, or if they were complaining. And he did mention, for example, like Nishioka and Hanshin Tigers. He was hurt a lot when he was in the majors. He didn't really get that much playing time, and then he came back. So I think he was saying that a player like that, it's hard to find a good reason, or it's hard to find. The Tigers did pay a lot of money for him, and ultimately, as a fan or as a team, you have high expectations, you pay for the money, and then you get hurt again, and you don't perform very well. I think that those kind of players, it's harder to trying to get the word. It's harder to, I guess, approve or make sense of spending so much money on a player, especially because they had kind of a questionable track record in the majors. I don't know if that made sense. But again, I think it depends on the player, and it depends on, I guess, the reputation as well of the player. What was their reputation before they left? What was their reputation while they were in the United States? And if both were high, then chances are they will be well received in the return. But if either wasn't high, if they had a bad reputation before leaving, or if they had a bad reputation when they were in the United States, then it gets harder to put good value on a player like that, force good value on a player like that. I don't know if that answered the question, but thank you, Ian. And let's see.
すごいみんないっぱいメジャーで見たい選手の名前を羅列してくれてですね。
I see there's a number of players here that you want to see in the majors. Yamada, Sakamoto from the Giants, Yanagita, interesting. Fujinami, Tsugo, Sugano, Norimoto.
皆さん詳しい。僕も今挙げた選手はみんな見てみたいけど、ただ僕らが望んでるような成績を残せるとは思わないかな。
Yeah, Kazuma also would love to see these players go to the majors and see how they might perform in the majors, but he doesn't think all of them can put up really good numbers.
まあ、ピッチャーはこんなにやると思うんですけど、例
Pitchers
え
he
ば
thinks might do okay.
例えば山田
Oh,
の山田をいい例とすると、井口
はい
がまさに MLB に行く前で盗塁王経験もあってホームランも打ってトリプルスリーの可能性ある人間だったんですよ、日本でも。
はい、
でメジャー行ってスモールベースボールのレッドソックスである程度実績も残してっていうことを考えると、山田が行ったら井口ぐらいはやってくれるんじゃないかなって期待。
Okay, he's kind of comparing Yamada to Iguchi. Iguchi, before leaving for the majors, he was stealing bases, he was hitting home runs. But then when he went to the United States, the numbers weren't exactly the same. It was more of a small baseball kind of situation. But he still did put up respectable numbers. And he believes that if Yamada were to go to the majors, it would be something similar probably for him. That he would probably, well, I guess it would also depend on the team, but he believes that they're kind of along the same lines. So he would be happy if Yamada could put up similar numbers to Iguchi.
一度井口の成績を見てもらったら、
he says to take a look at Iguchi's numbers, and
なるほどと思ってもらえる。
and maybe that will convince you that the two players are very similar, and that they could actually follow similar paths.
井口は広い福岡ドーム本拠地で成績出せたってことを考えると、山田の本拠地は神宮なんで、差し引くと井口クラスの活躍は望めるんじゃないかなっていう期待はあるけど、井口さんの方が体大きくて、頑丈そうだった。で、その辺の違いはあるかもしれない。
He also just added that Iguchi played in a much larger stadium than Yamada, so and Iguchi is also a bigger player. So if Yamada does go to the majors, he may follow a similar path as Iguchi, but probably with a little less power. And Yamada's kind of, Jingu Stadium is kind of a home run ballpark, so you take that ballpark away from him, and he probably doesn't hit quite as many home runs. But Yamadaはどうですか？パワーとか結構ありますか？
そうですね。柳田は日本でもアンタッチャブルっていうか、規格外なんで、どんな成績を残すか未知数なんですよ。
彼ってアメリカでやりたいとかっていうのは、
明言はしてないし、目指してるかもちょっとはっきりは分からないですけど、日本でも今まで見たことないっていう意味だと、イチローさんと近いんですよね。要は見たことないプレースタイルでやってるってことを考えると、MLB でガチッとハマる可能性がある。
I just asked about Yanagita, and he says Yanagita is kind of an unknown, has an unknown quality that makes it hard to determine what kind of player he's ultimately going to become. And in that sense, he compares Yanagita to Ichiro. And he also says that it's possible that Yanagita could actually go to the majors. I mean, he hasn't said he wants to go to the majors, so that's one thing. But if he were to go to the majors, he could be the kind of player that actually does well, extremely well, similar to like Ichiro. But again, he's a very different kind of player. One that I don't think Japan has ever really seen before. So I think a lot of people are also very excited about him too. Let's see. E1K1, what are your thoughts about Tazawa can't play in the WBC?
日本のファンでも田澤のプレーを見たいって言ってる人がすごく多くて、現実問題、今年日本のクローザーがいないんですよ。こいつっていう人がいない。去年のプレミアもそうだったんですけど、ってことを考えると、クローザーができる日本人欲しいっていうのはすごくあって、名前も上がってるのは事実。マニアの野球ファンからしたら、上原ですら使ってほしいっていうような意見が出てるのも事実。ただ、ハードルはそんなに高くはないと思うんです。もう、NPB 経由してないからって選ばないとかっていうフェーズではないとは思うんですけど、ただ一緒にやったことがないっていう不安はどうしてもあるんですよね。日本で見たことがないから。
ああ、そもそもどこまでできるかっていうの
だし、それこそどういう人物なのかとかを把握する術が現状ないんで、同じ能力、田澤と同じぐらいの期待感がある日本人 NPB プレイヤーがいたら NPB プレイヤーの方を使うだろうなっていうのは分かった。僕らもどんな人間なのか田澤選手のことをそこまで知らないと考えると実績だけではちょっとないし、ただすごく使ってくれっていう声が国内からも多くて、すごい成績をね現状も残されてるから可能性としてはゼロではないけど、同じ能力もっと飛び抜けたものがあるとかじゃない限りは見たいけど見れないかなっていう気がする。
Tazawa was kind of shut out from the WBC before because of the whole because of how he went to the majors. But I just asked Kazama right now, and he said that that phase is probably over. The WBC people organizing the WBC are probably not too concerned about that right now. If anything, there is one kind of one thing that might keep him from making the national team, or one thing that would keep him from making the national team, and that's just no one knows anything about him. They don't know his personality. They don't know how he would fit with the team as a whole. And in that sense, if there's a player in the MPB that's similar to Tazawa, Japan would probably just end up picking that player over Tazawa because it's safer. And so I don't think right now Tazawa. I mean, there are people that would like to see him play for the national team, but realistically speaking, I don't know if that's going to happen. Just because, like as I said before, there's too many question marks about him. They don't know what kind of pitcher he is, his mentality, and whether or not he would actually mesh with the rest of the players. So, hope that answers your question. Tensai Baka, isn't Valentine's contract up after this season? Either the Giants or SoftBank spend a boatload of money for him, or could he head back to the MLB? バレンティンの契約って
今年まででしたかね。
なので、読売がとかソフトバンク、もしくはメジャーに戻るその中で可能性とか、その噂とか、ヤクルトにまた戻る。
バレンティンがヤクルトに感謝してるのは事実です。怪我をして、結局シーズン以降、万全なシーズンがない中で、わりかし自分の好きにやらせてもらってるし、コーチの支えになって、僕はヤクルトに残るかが一番じゃないかなとは思ってるんですけど、正直助っ人の方のメンタルは僕たちでも読み切れてない。日本愛してるなと思ったら戻ってしまったりとか、ただ難しいけど、
他のチームが手を出すとかっていうのは、そういう噂とか
は聞いてはいない。ただ、ジャイアンツが
前にもしてるからね、
ホームランバッターが欲しいと思ってることは間違いないと思います。
Okay, so yeah, Valentine's contract is up after the season. And he's, Kazama was saying that Valentine, from what he knows, he feels really grateful towards the Yakult Swallows for kind of dealing with him. He's been injured. He hasn't really been healthy since he had that big home run year. And so I think he does feel gratitude towards the team for having him on the team the last couple of years, paying salary. And I guess they've also been pretty lenient with him in terms of how he trains and works out. So in terms of comfort level, I think right now the Yakult Swallows are probably the best team for him to return to next year. But he really doesn't know what Valentine's going to do. He's had experiences in the past where he thought a player would return but didn't return. So Kazuma here doesn't know if Valentine, what kind of mindset Valentine is in right now. Other than that, he probably does feel some gratitude towards the organization, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. And as for whether or not the Giants or the Hawks would spend money on him, he said that Giants, obviously if you look at the Giants right now, they are lacking a power hitter. He would probably be a good fit there in terms of power. And there have been many cases in the past where the Giants have picked up Yakult players, so it wouldn't be a huge surprise if it were to happen. But again, he hasn't really heard any rumors, so he has no idea where Valentine will end up next year. Thank you, Tensai Baka. And let's see, baseball Japones. Hi again. No question from my side. Just want to congratulate you for your amazing job on your site, YakyuDB. It makes the job I do on my own website much easier. Thanks. Thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate that. It's people like you that keep me going. So I appreciate your support. If you have any questions, if you guys have any questions, are advanced statistics used by front offices in MPB? 多分これはセーバーかな。So MPB now Jose Rafael Jerez, are advanced statistics? Are you talking about sabermetrics, or and when you say offices in the MPB, are you talking about the MPB teams or the MPB office in general?
MPB のフロントは？
フロントだからこれは球団のフロントなのか、まあ多分球団のフロントだと思うんですけど、はい、まあそういうなんか
スタッツは見てるのか見てますよ。僕が見る限り聞いてる話だと成績の評価とか、まあ本当 MLB と同じ活用をしてるとは思います。査定とかに出塁率を使ってみたりとかっていう話は聞きますよ。ファウルの数とか。ただMLB より進んでないっていうのは事実だと思います。
He's heard of MPB teams using advanced stats. Probably not as much as MLB teams, but certainly, yeah. I think, yeah, they are. I don't. Advanced stats aren't really that big here in Japan yet. I think they're starting to come into kind of like the. I mean, even now you have like Nikkan Sports and Sunspo. They're introducing some of these sabermetric stats. So I think there is an interest, a general interest now, but it still isn't a big thing here in Japan yet. Although, like I said, I think they are slowly beginning to adopt some of these things. And I think 一番多分やってるチームってソフトバンクとか。
ソフトバンク、あとファイターズに進んでるって言われてますね。それこそ大谷とかのドラフト取った時の話とかの有名ですけど、毎年一番いい選手を取るっていう方針でドラフトをしてるんですけど、 あれはかなりロジカルに
あ
何が良くて、ポテンシャル的にもどうで、ファボールが少なくてみたいなところまで見て取ってると思いますよ。
契約更新の時もそうですね。そ
うん
のワンとかも、
はい
日本でちゃんと結構そうで。
やっぱ強いチームはちゃんとやってる気がします。
Okay. I think two teams, SoftBank Hawks and Nippon Ham Fighters. These two teams, from his perspective, are fairly advanced in terms of kind of things they do with stats, and especially during the draft and also during contract signings, they do go through a lot of stats and they do things fairly logically. So there are teams that are doing it, and I think right now the top two may be the SoftBank Hawks and Nippon Ham Fighters. Since I don't know Giants, they still have 2 years. Yes, they indeed did. It could be one of those things again with Valentine. Who knows? I'm also a Swallows fan, so I would be devastated if that were to happen. But
珍しいですね、でも。天才バカさんはどちらの出身なんだろう。
Kazuma wants to know, Tensei Baka, where are you from?
スワローズファンって珍しくないですか？あっちにいて、誰を見て好きになったんでしょう？野村？
Also, Tensei Baka, Kazuma is interested in knowing how you became a Yakult Swallows fan. Don't know if you want to answer that or not. But Iwan K1, do you think Kubo is a good manager for the Japanese national team?
また難しい質問ですね。極めて日本的な考え方だと思うんですけど、ここまで結果を残した代表監督ってスラッガーなんですよ。日本だとね。王さんに始まり、原さんが引き続きっていう系譜でいくと、確かにっていう気はしないでもない。もし松井が日本でやってたら松井さんだったでしょう。系譜的に元巨人っていうのもありましたね。ただちょうどあっちにも行ってたしっていうところで、ただふさわしいかっていうところでいくと経験がなかったっていうのは、よろしくなかったかなって気がします。指導者経験がないっていうのはやっぱりそれが出たのがプレミアだったと思うけど、人格者っていう意味だと選手からは嫌われて、いい意味でも悪い意味でも嫌われてはいない人かな。他に適任がいるとは僕は思わない。ベストかって言われたら。
Okay, you said the Kokobo question is a difficult one, but in terms of national team managers and track records, if you look at the last two managers, Sadahara O and Tatsunori Hara, they're both kind of power hitters and offensive type hitters, players. And so in that sense, maybe Kokobo is in the right, it's kind of selecting in the right direction. But the one problem with Kokobo is that he just doesn't have the experience. That may have been the biggest problem with him, or I guess he's still a manager. So, but if there's one fault, that would be it, I guess. It's just that he doesn't have the experience. And honestly, there just aren't a lot of candidates in Japan. And he was also saying that if Hideki Matsui had returned to Japan, that there was a good chance he probably would be the manager right now. But since he's not here, Kokobo may have been the best option. But yeah, does that answer your question? If you played for Yakult, what song did you play over the PA when you walk up to the plate before you were at bat? Are you? I guess you're asking Kazuma here what kind of walk-up song he wants, or he would want.
僕がプレイしたら
ヤクルトでどの曲がありますよね、いつもなんか選手が出てくると登場曲です。 そのどういう曲を選びますかって。
へえ。アットバットってことは打席入るときってことですか？
はい。よくありますよね。
うん、
特に本部。
はいはいはい。まあ僕だったらやっぱり洋楽にしたいな。どの曲かっていうのは分からないけど、まあ、あんまり大きい声じゃないですけど、日本の邦楽で打席に入ってると、やっぱ球場に行くとちょっと笑っちゃう時とかあるんですよ。なんか可愛い曲使ってるなって、アイドルソングとか使ってる。だったら、
でも日本の曲でも結構シリアスな曲もあるんじゃないですか。
まあまあありますけど、
清原とかさんの。
ああ、はいはいはい。
まああれはもう、まあだから、
うん、かっこよくやりたいですね。って考えると、やっぱアメリカのロックとかの方がかっこいいじゃないですか。スポーツに使われてる曲はすごくすべてかっこいいと思うし。
If he were to pick a song, it would probably be, well, he can't think of anything specifically, but he said he'd want to pick an American song um, because it's just, he thinks it's kind of strange if he were to step into the batter's box with a Japanese idol song playing in the background. I think that's kind of strange, and he would rather have something that's kind of cool when he's stepping into the batter's box. So we sell a taste of life. I don't know if that answers your question, but there's the answer. Tensai Baka, originally from Seattle, lived in Tokyo for 15 years now. Studied at Aoyama Gakuin for 1 year, just close to Jingu. Went there a lot during the year.
今、東京お住まいってことですか？
Are you still living in Tokyo now, or?
I've been in Tokyo for ってことは
Oh, you
15 年
live
間
in Tokyo for 15 years now. So you actually still are in Tokyo, I guess.
で、青山学院大学で1年勉強してた。
で、神宮が近いから、
必然的にヤクルトファンになられたってことですね。今度ぜひスタジオで出演されたらどうですか？
if you're still in Japan, Tensai Baka, maybe you can drop by the stream. Maybe you could be a guest here.
ちょうど今日ね、そんな話になったんでしょうね。
But yeah, if you're interested, drop me an email. I don't know when the next stream is going to be, but if you're interested or open to that, let me know.
すごい中日ファンの方が多いんですね、E1K1。
So E1K1 中日 fan. See, I hope you get to that. See.
その2人プラス、田島も選ばれそうかな。
He thinks that your Hirata and Ono probably make the team as well as Tajima for the WBC. So if you're a Chunichi fan, that's good news. If you live in Tokyo, you have to be a Yakult fan. Yeah, I don't know how many. I guess that's true to some degree. I live in Tokyo and I'm a Yakult fan. But I think there's also a lot of course, Yomiuri fans as well. And
東京に住んでたら、
ヤクルトファンじゃなきゃいけない。
いや、ね、ヤクルトと巨人っていうの難しいんですよね。ヤクルトは東京ファンを身につけたい、取りたいから東京ってつけたんですけど、もともとは巨人の土地、まあ難しいですね。ニューヨークがじゃあみんなメッツファンかって言ったら違うじゃないですか。っていう位置関係と一緒じゃないですか、多分価値観的には。巨人はアンチもいるけどっていう感覚ってことですよね。
Yeah, he was just talking about how Yakult is the Yakult Swallows are kind of in a tough situation because Giants are kind of Tokyo's team, and Yakult did put Tokyo into their team name to try to build a stronger connection. But again, it's kind of like the New York Mets and New York Yankees. There were two teams in one city vying for. They're taking fans from one base. Same thing with Yomiuri Giants and Yakult Swallows. But yeah, I guess for some reason I tend to think that Yomiuri fans tend to be kind of I don't know. I think there's probably more fair weather fans with Giants fans. If they're doing well, then they get more fans. If they're not doing well, they're not doing well right now, but they still have they're still drawing. So I guess that may not be the case necessarily. But I guess if you're a Yakult fan, you're really a Yakult fan, and you're going through the bad times a lot. So you're kind of tested there. But anyway, it's 11:12. The stream actually lasted a lot longer than I thought it was going to last. I had initially thought that it would be a 30-minute stream with a possible extension of 30 minutes. But it's been over that now. Daniel Brim, I'm going to, I hope you don't mind, save this question for the next stream. In fact, could be Apple fan of contribution.
Last one,
Well, okay. Well, I guess Daniel Brim, your question is going to be the last question, and then we'll end the stream. これあれですよね。ブラジルの選手ですよね。で、もともとヤクルトに辞めたっていうか、引退。
辞めたんじゃないですか。
金節は辞め。
ユーゴ。はいはいはい。そうですね。いなくなっちゃいましたね。
So yeah, actually, Daniel, your question will be the last question we'll be answering. Again, I'll probably be doing these streams. I don't know how regular or how often, but I'm going to try to do them more. And we'll have different guests. I don't know if it'll be the same guests all the time or if we'll mix it up, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, to get to the last question, to turn around a common question, which player in MLB would you most like to see in MLB? Okay, interesting. MLB の選手で NPB で見たいっていう、逆にっていう発想がありますかっていう。
僕ピッチャーだったんで、学生時代やっぱすごいピッチャー好きなんですよ。で、やっぱりどうしても日本人がいるチームの試合ばかりを見るんで、もっとすげえやついるよって言われるかもしれないですけど、キンブレル、レッドソックスでしたっけ、上原の後に投げてますよね、のまっすぐは。
Just 1 second.
はすごいストレートを投げてるなと思います。
Okay, Daniel, I just asked him, and he said, he's a pitcher, or was a pitcher. I guess 今草野球やってるんですか？
はい、草野球やってます。
今ピッチャーやってるんですか？それとも
ピッチャーもやってます。
今メインのポジションっていうのはじゃありますか？
でもメインで行くとキャッチャーかな。
キャッチャー。
はい。
Well, he was a pitcher in high school. 大学のピッチャー。
はい。大学は野球は草野球でしたね。
草野球。はい。Okay, so he was a pitcher in high school, and when he was going to college, he was doing sandlot baseball, and he was pitching, and he's also been doing catching lately. But so in that sense, he has a very high interest in pitchers, and the one pitcher he really is interested in, and that's based on the games he's seen, he's limited to the number of games he sees because obviously they don't show all the games over here on Japanese TV. So he's limited to games where Japanese players appear, and so the one pitcher that I guess pops into his mind is Craig Kimbrell. Kimbrell? I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name properly or not, but I guess he's pitching for the Boston Red Sox. He really likes his fastball, and I guess he's a player that he would like to see pitch in the MLB. I don't think it'll probably happen, but of course, but that's one pitcher he really likes in the MLB right now.
スターターよりなんかクローザーでやべえやつ出てきたみたいなのが見たいですね、日本で。
外国人で。
うん。だからまあサファテですら盛り上がってるけど、きっとあれより上のピッチャーが MLB にいるから。
Well, he would really love to see a closer come from the majors. He believes that, you know, I mean, right now you have Sarfit with SoftBank, and you know, he's doing an excellent job with the Hawks. But he believes that there's got to be someone in the majors that can do better than him and just blow people away in the MVP. And he would love to see that. But, okay, so anyway, I guess the stream now is going to wind down. Again, I will try to post better updates about when the next stream is going to take place. It'll probably be the same format. You know, if you have questions, I'll try to save them up for that session. Alternatively, you can also post your questions to this live stream forum at YakyuDB.com. Either way is fine. And I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today. I think we maxed out at like 10 or 11 people. Thank you. And I will try to tweet and post a message. Of course, I would appreciate any retweets, or if you have any, if you know anyone who's interested, if you could pass along information, that would be great as well. And thank you, Daniel and E1K1. And I guess we'll be seeing you again soon.
またの機会に。
And you may be seeing him again as well in the future.
楽しかったです。
And he says he had a lot of fun. So I guess that's it for today. Bye.